GOP is still trying to process the disappointing results of the midterms and why the party underperformed. During a video appearance, former President Trump said it is more important than ever for Republicans to win back the White House.
We will end Joe Biden's inflation nightmare and rapidly rebuild the greatest economy in the history of the world. We will launch an all-out campaign to bring manufacturing out of China and back to America where it belongs. We will secure our southern border and stop illegal immigration once and for all. We will end Joe Biden's war on American energy. We'll become energy independent as we were just 2 years ago, and we will, in fact, become energy dominant. We'll restore America's strength and standing on the world stage.
Well, Isaac Arnsdorf is joining us now to talk more about the weekend's conference. He is a national political reporter for the Washington Post. Aaron, thanks for joining us. So let's talk about this. You know, the midterms were a little disappointing for the GOP. Can you explain why this conference is critical as they sort of map out their future?
Well, the 2024 presidential primary is already starting, and even though it's only been a week since the midterms, and this event in Vegas was kind of the unofficial kickoff or cattle call, where all these people who are making moves, thinking about it, exploring it, kind of show up to audition before a bunch of Republican donors and give a little preview of what the primary field could look like. And the main takeaway was that it's going to be big, it's going to be contested, it's not going to be Donald Trump running unopposed.
Yeah, so that's what I find really interesting, Isaac. I don't know, for some reason, there was a narrative over the last year or so that if former President Trump announced that he was running for the presidency, that those Republicans that we're talking about would stay clear of him. That, I mean, it feels like there was a lot of subtweeting during those speeches yesterday. In other words, people saying out loud what they're thinking, none more so than Nikki Haley, who essentially said that she's going for it. Do you think it's because they sense that Trump is weaker and that the shtick that might have worked in 2016 is not going to work in 2024?
Yeah, absolutely. And it wasn't that subtle. I mean, there were a lot of people calling out Trump by name, pinning the blame for the Republicans' disappointments in the midterms on him. So those were things that you just didn't really hear from Republican politicians before. And it was also, they were getting applauded for that, which you also aren't used to hearing in recent years. And so it is this moment of political weakness for Trump in the aftermath of those midterms. And, to the extent that part of his thinking in being first out of the gate was to scare everybody else off, that didn't happen.
So Vlad mentioned Nikki Haley saying she's going for it. Who are some of the up-and-coming contenders for 2024?
Well, we heard from former Vice President Mike Pence and former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who are doing an interesting challenge for them because they're trying to associate themselves with the things that Republican primary voters liked about the Trump administration, but not necessarily align themselves with Trump himself. Then we also, the prime spot, the last spot went not to Trump. It was to Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, fresh off his reelection landslide, and kind of he was there to present what he's doing in Florida as the future for the Republican Party nationwide. We also heard from Haley, as you mentioned, South Carolina Senator Tim Scott, and former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie and current New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu.
So is it any coincidence then that the former president and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis were scheduled to appear at this conference on different days?
It was the same day, different times, but DeSantis, like I mentioned, had that coveted last slot. He was the grand finale, and Trump almost missed it. He was added to the program at the last minute and just by video link instead of in person, which, there was something missing from that in terms of his ability to kind of read the room and feed off the audience. Our reporting is that Trump had been interested in doing a smaller, more exclusive event with top donors that didn't end up happening. So when that didn't materialize, he wasn't going to come at all. And then after he announced for president, there was a scramble to get him on the program after all.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that actually, because I thought for a guy who's the first out of the gate to announce that you want to run, you'd think he'd definitely show up there and be, shaking hands and asking for money. But so you're saying that it seems like he didn't show up because the event that he wanted to happen wasn't going to happen, which is big money donors. So he just said, I'll stay in Florida.
Right. And maybe, again, the hope that announcing early would clear the field. Maybe he thought he could rise above it, but ended up being important that he come and be a part of the cattle call. And that's sort of symbolic of how it really is going to be. He's going to have to fight for it. Yeah. It is going to be a contested primary.
Yeah.
All right. Isaac Arnsdorf, always great to have you, my friend. Thanks for your reporting.
Thanks.